Good evening. It is 5:30, so we're going to call the regular meeting to order. Remind you to turn your phones to silent or vibrate, and then please let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chris, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Berg.
Here.
Councilmember Dalby.
Here.
Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from special meeting number 15 on May 14th, 2021, and regular meeting number 16 on May 18th, 2021 as presented. Approve the appointment of Shaylee Dunham to the full-time position of Communications Specialist for the Ottumwa Police Department effective June 14th, 2021. Civil Service Commission eligibility list for May 26, 2021, firefighter entrance, utility worker entrance, and equipment operator promotional. Approve the purchase of 3 NASTech traffic signal controllers for the Public Works Department for the total amount of $13,200. Resolution number 110, 2021, setting July 6, 2021 as the date of a public hearing on the disposition of city-owned property located at 215 North Benton. Beer and/or liquor applications for Front Runners with outdoor service area at 837 Church Street. Fraternal Orders of Eagles, Ottumwa, number 114 at 109 South Green Street. American Legion OB Nelson, number 3 at 550 West Main Street. Appanus Rapids with outdoor service area at 332 East Main Street. Champion Bowl with outdoor service area at 2601 Romer Avenue. Owl's Nest LLC at 116 South Court. Main Street, Ottumwa, temporary outdoor service area for Downtown is Back on June 18th, 2021. Parkview Plaza Hotel Ottumwa, 107 East 2nd Street, temporary outdoor service area for the following dates: 7/2, 7/9, 7/16, 7/23, and 7/30/2021. Ottumwa Elks Lodge 347, temporary outdoor service area for 6/23 to 6/27/2021 at the Jimmy Jones Shelter. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion?
Move the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Item C in our agenda is our approval for tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Before I turn this over to Phil Rath, I should mention Christine Stone, our attorney, is on the phone and is available to the staff tonight. So at this time, Phil, if you would give us an update.
All right. Thank you, the Honorable Mayor. So I had one thing that's on the agenda and one other one that has evolved as of today or confirmed as of today. They are both upcoming work sessions. One we've been talking about having a work session to discuss city council, committees, boards, and the relationships with staff and with each other. And that is scheduled now, as of today, for June 22nd at 5:30. And we'll be sending out invitations to the various committees, boards, commissions for the city to have at least one representative or as many individuals as they'd like. And then we'll also look to record that so we can play that for future orientation periods, those kinds of things. The second work session is the one that's listed on the agenda, and that is discussion with the Human Rights Commission. We are looking at, we're working with Monica Stone from the, let's see, I remember where
Human
she
Relations?
is. Yeah, Iowa Department of Human Rights. She is administrator of the Community Advocacy and Services Division. She will be coming down to help facilitate the discussion with the council, any staff that are interested in that, and the individuals that have been on the forefront of bringing this conversation forward. And that will be on June 29th at 5:30. So we have a couple Tuesdays here in the month. We'll be busy, but I think the couple of those things have been ongoing questions and concerns in the city, and I think we're, from my perspective, looking forward to having a public facilitation of those two topics.
Okay, very good. All right, item E, is there anyone in the audience that wants to address the council about city business tonight? Okay, let's move on to item F then.
Approve grant application to the Bureau of Justice Assistance to participate in the 2021 Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program and authorize the mayor or chief of police to sign any related documents as may be required. Recommendation: approve submission of the grant application and authorize the mayor or chief of police to sign any related documents as may be required.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Phil or the chief?
I just have one. How many of those do we cycle every year? I know, isn't there like a expiration date on some of those vests?
Mayor, council. Most manufacturers of ballistic vests say about 5 years.
That's
We
what I
usually
thought.
try to budget about 5 to 10 vests that we cycle out when we go on to buy these. But they talk about the Kevlar fibers, perspiration when you're wearing it close to your body like that, especially in the summer months, that the salts, the sweat start to break down those fibers and they no longer honor it in its ballistic value. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Chief, you might also be interested. I had a letter this morning from an interested citizen who was concerned about us purchasing those, but stated the fact that thought that should be standard equipment, that they needed to be supplied to the officers, and we had a lively discussion and think that money could be used for something else. And I just think that it's interesting that the party was paying attention to what were on our agenda.
Right, absolutely. Well, it's a piece of equipment that's it's not cheap, obviously, on those. So we're grateful that the department federally allows us to get some compensation as a city and help us out on that. So,
Any other questions for Chief or Phil? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Approve agreement for the maintenance and repair of primary roads and municipalities between the City of Ottumwa and the Iowa Department of Transportation and authorize the mayor to sign. Recommendation: approve the agreement and authorize the mayor to sign.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Larry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is our standard agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation outlining who is responsible for items within the city of Ottumwa in areas where we have joint jurisdictions. An example, if you look at the actual agreement, areas that have curb, we're responsible for the curb. Any storm that we put in that's not necessary for the highway, we're responsible for. Traffic signals, things like that that's not considered necessary for a highway primary system. They just want to outline and make sure that as these items need work, it's defined.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Resolution number 114, 2021, approving a subordination agreement between the City of Ottumwa, County Bank, and Andrew D. and Starla M. Weichman. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 114, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, Zach. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The Weichmans participated in the Neighborhood Stabilization Program in 2012, which provided stimulus funds of up to $1 million for the city to provide financing assistance to prospective homeowners. That program required a 15-year occupancy term, And during that term, the city traditionally sits in a second position on any mortgage on that home. In this case, the homeowners are refinancing the mortgage, and so we need to provide a subordination agreement to, again, be in that second position. There were no changes to the terms or conditions of the NSP grant as a result of the refinancing or the subordination agreement, and we're still in sort of the second position on the mortgage where we were before.
Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Resolution number 115, 2021, approving an extension of the agreement with Venue Works of Ottumwa LLC for the management of the Bridgeview Center. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 115, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. And Phil, are you going to take that?
I can take that. If I get my, there we go. All right. So we have, the city has since November of 2011 had an agreement, an arrangement with Venue Works to operate the Bridgeview Center. That was renewed in July of 2016 and set to expire this June 30th. So due negotiating and going back and forth with the Venue Works, we have an attached agreement, which is a 3-year extension with a option for a 3-year renewal. And part of this here is looking at trying to help clarify some of the language and some of the things that have been going on with the operation of the agreement. So we pay Venue Works a fee, but then we also have the operational costs that go along with aspects of this. And so now we're looking at taking that, breaking that out to identify, clarify that regardless of who operates the facility, there are going to be these ongoing costs. The cost to lights, heat, air conditioning, any of those operational costs are going to be there regardless. That's a big chunk of what the city is contributing towards the Venue Center there. Other than that, there's a cost of living adjustment that's been built in, and another level of incentive for the concessions. So hopefully to encourage more growth in that area and a bigger share of the pie for everyone. Overall, I was pleased with it and recommend this arrangement to the council and on behalf of the city. And we had tentatively agreed to what you have before you.
Are there any questions for Phil? We have members of the Bridgeview staff here.
I would make a comment, Mayor.
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I would thank Mr. Hallgren and Venue Works Management because what a year. And yet just this last month to see them come back with over 700 at the Mother's Day banquet and another 100 in a banquet that night and all the other activities. But I really appreciate the way they worked as a partner in good faith through this whole thing. So thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 118, 2021, approving change order number 3 in the amount of $68,646 for the Blake's Branch Sewer Separation Phase 8 Division 1 project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 118, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening, Larry. You have the floor again.
Thanks again. Change order 3 will provide compensation to the contractor for replacing the sanitary sewer system on Ash Street between Haynes and Orchard Street, replacing the sanitary sewer system on Main Street between Fellows Ave and Iowa Avenue, and adding 8-inch external drop connection to the Blake's Branch Sewer Separation Phase 8 Project 1. The City of Ottumwa investigated the existing sewer pipes located at Ash and Main, and the existing sewer pipes were in poor condition and needed complete replacement. This is one of them that was partially full as we was doing the design, and once we got it emptied, there was a lot of open gaps and sand kept coming back in. Change order 3 increases the contract amount by $68,646. The new contract sum is $11,883,378.63. I've listed the funding as typical for these projects. And what I wanted to do, there's been questions, just kind of where are we at with the project? So our very own drone pilot did a new flight last week and created a short video for council and the public. We'll just let it run and I'll do some discussion as it goes. Again, the Elm Street Pump Station was the beginning of the project, and as you know, they started last year. That 30-inch line is complete. That red line indicated where it went up to Main Street. And we'll just do a slow kind of fly up through here. As it went through, of course, we worked with the property owners. These buildings that did not have sewer connection, they now have sewer. Goodyear, for example, was on an old septic. Along with stubbing out for the old tire warehouse. So all these businesses, along with Pool Trucking, has a new service drop into this sanitary that goes directly to the plant and no longer goes through a CSO structure. You can see Orchard Street, Elm, and Haynes, and a couple alleys in this process. Those streets, the infrastructure is in. We have a little bit of work right on the corner of Orchard and Elm. We'll keep that graded throughout the summer and into the fall before we do the chip and seal on those streets. In a little bit, you'll be able to see a good shot of Haynes Street. We was able to complete the majority of that street last year and open up through the winter, which is always good. We have come in, the subcontractor has tied in all the returns, and you can see in this picture, the sidewalks have been completed or virtually completed. They'll be doing grading and seeding in the next few weeks on that area. This short section from Haynes Street, which is the main line that's showing up to Railroad, is where we're adding that additional line just because of poor shape. Here in a minute, you'll see the railroad property. That's where we had to do our bore from the south side under the tracks. That's something that you cannot shut the rail tracks down. That's cost prohibitive. At one of our projects, they did indicate that the downtime for that rail is $278,000 an hour if you shut one down, possibly. We'll give it a second here. That is the actual bore location, bore pit on one side, receiving on the other. This is like a sped up version. There's your actual bore head after they have the rails and track system installed. They've already got some pipe in, and what they'll do here is grab a casing. They're sticking the actual auger in for people that haven't seen this type of work. That entire casing and that auger section will then be lowered into the bore pit. And you can see active rail as they're working behind them. So that actually goes in. Each of these segments then have to be welded 100% all the way around. It's kind of interesting. The initial piece has an actual steering head on it. The hoses and stuff is used to determine the level of the head and set the grade. Typically, you try to start on a bore, well, you about have to, on the low end and bore upgrade. So that was just a quick version. We have a lot more film on actually how that occurred. And they actually did it in about 4 days of actual boring, so that was relatively quick. We finished, again, the line up through. We reconfigured some of the sanitary because there was multiple lines in Main Street between where we come out and Iowa. We wanted to correct that. After we looked at the shape of about 4 manholes, we decided just to replace that. That's part of this change order. So you can see Iowa Avenue in the background. We have completed the bore underneath Iowa. Last week we run into one where CenturyLink did not have their service out of the way, so we had to take panels out that we had planned on leaving in and actually shutting that intersection down in order to pothole locate and avoid hitting a 200 pair that actually feeds JBS, as I understand it. The contractor actually has the main line sewer in as we're heading west. You can see Winco Tank. We're actually lined up with what is Ash Street, and they're just slightly past Ash Street now. So they have about 600 feet left to get to Birch. They're going to start now laying both sanitary and storm. The paving is projected on the east end, or basically where we come out of Wimco's east driveway to Iowa at the end of this month. They'll roll around as soon as they get the storm in and start paving the other direction. It's anticipated by the end of November that the paving on Main Street should be done. So that'll be all the way from Van Buren to Vine. They'll turn and start up Birch after, of course, they finish the pipe work on Main Street. And then the paving and stuff on Birch is anticipated for next year, springtime. If there's any general questions, I know we get a lot of questions. Of course, it's always, when is paving starting?
I have one, Larry. On Birch Street, do you think you're going to start up Birch soon?
No, it'll be probably, see, they're laying both. I'd want to look at the schedule, but I think it's 5 weeks. I didn't bring the
In
schedule.
5 weeks?
Yeah. We will not have both ends of railroad out at the same time is the plan. We want to make sure we open the main line up before we shut Ash. We put temporary access to the middle parking lot for Wimco currently. That's where a lot of the office staff goes in and out, but we want to have the east end open before we shut the west.
Okay,
They
do you
to
have
get
that,
truck traffic in?
that separated area like Ash, Fellows, do you have that hooked into a storm line now?
It will. As the storm goes in and once it's connected, then they'll drop back in, and those areas that was previously separated will now be truly separated.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Larry? I know a couple of us went down and watched you, and they were doing some of the sewer work, and had some real challenges down on Main Street. So,
Well, when you're 22 foot deep, you get into challenges, and then you
Yeah.
have a lot of old infrastructure.
any other concerns? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Resolution number 120, 2021, addressing a notice of assignment of contract funds and authorizing the mayor to sign letter of acknowledgement on the 2021 sidewalk drop and detectable warning program. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 120, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Resolution number 121, 2021, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete for the 2020 Sanitary Utility Access Program. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 121, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Resolution number 122, 2021, authorizing the mayor to execute Iowa DOT pre-construction agreement number 2021-6092 for Highway 149 resurfacing project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 122, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Larry, want to make some comments about that, please?
The IDOT pre-construction agreement authorizes the DOT to design, let, and spec construction of a hot mix asphalt resurfacing on 149 from the north of West Woodland Avenue in Ottumwa to 1.1 miles north of US Highway 63. In order for DOT to overlay these sections, the city-owned and maintained return sections have to be adjusted to meet the new main line profile. The city has several options, but the cost-effective method is to include the work as part of the DOT contract. This project will impact several of the traffic signal loop detection systems. Due to the disruption of the detectors, we will switch to a radio microwave detection system. These systems are currently priced at $22,000 each. We do plan on purchasing that. We'll have to come back to council for a budget amendment in order to get these done. We want to install them ahead of the work to where we don't lose complete interruption of our traffic signals and have to go to a red flash. Currently, the way they are, they have a default timing that just cycles just based on timing, doesn't care about what cars, what lanes they're in. But again, for that type of work, we'll be taking out a lot of the loops when we adjust the adjacent area, especially for the full depth. We put a few of the intersections just to give you a general idea. I know I included just some of the paperwork from the DOT, but if you take a look at these, this is what's proposed, and then we'll actually adjust them in the field as the work's being done. So this is 149 Alta Vista. You can see where we go into the return in order to adjust. And again, the quantities are already in the DOT contract when they let it, and it's just a matter of monitor, measure, and then in the end, whatever actual quantities are used is what we'll reimburse the DOT for. The controllers are separate from that. And for instance, that North Court intersection that we just showed, and then the East Rochester, we already have quite a few loops out in that area. So it's a good timing to transition to the new detection system. Again, that's already on a default system because several of the loops are out. In-pavement loops have become extremely expensive each, and even in good pavement, they're estimated the last 7 years, sometimes less, sometimes more. This new detection system, we have one traffic signal that's currently using it. You don't have that problem because you don't have in-pavement detection. They're readily adjustable as where you want to aim, increase, that kind of thing. So it's just better technology that didn't exist when we put these signals in and the loop systems were included. But I wanted to make sure that you understood, not only do we obligate the city for this amount of money estimated, I think it was $89,000, and then we know we'll have somewhere around $44,000 worth of equipment, but we're going to have to replace a lot of loops anyway.
Any questions for Larry?
Larry, so basically that overlay will be from above the fire station, as you said, up at Woodland on north and all the way out to the Beltway bypass, whatever?
Right. It starts approximately 300 feet north of Woodland. If you drive out, you'll see where the current PCC pavement transitions into an HMA overlay, has PC under it, but that is where they'll header in and start again. And at one point, I know that I've been asked was, why can't we have them go back further? As a city, we don't really determine the scope of work with the DOT. They kind of determine limits.
That'll really be nice, though.
It'll be nice.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Ready to vote?
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Resolution number 124, 2021, approving the professional services agreement between the City of Ottumwa and Veenstra & Kim Incorporated for the Blake's Branch CSO Phase 8, Division 1, East of Iowa Avenue Separation Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 124, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Larry, go ahead.
I'll read through the staff summary, and then this is Ted Pacer. He's one of the principal engineers at V&K. He's been with us since 2004 with different separation projects. So he's been here since the beginning of our citywide CSO elimination program. This agreement provides for professional engineering services to design approximately 4,900 linear feet of sewer pipe and approximately 40 storm intake structures to separate storm from the combined sewer system on Van Buren Avenue between 4th and Main streets, between Van Buren and Adams, Adams between Main and Schwarm Street Alley, south of Main Street between Iowa Avenue, Foster Ave, and Mabel Streets, between Iowa and Foster. Total cost of the design as outlined in the agreement is $226,500. The estimated construction cost for the project is approximately $3 million. We currently have $6 million funded. That's in the pro forma and how we outlined our separation over the next given years through the division or Phase 8 and all the divisions. We're targeting about $6 million worth of construction. This map that is up kind of gives you an indication. That's kind of small, but I think I included one in your packet. You can see where we're picking up what's currently combined and installing a new storm line. The purple line represents what will become new storm lines. The green was separated but recombined, so we're simply going to pick them up on Van Buren, very similar to what we've done in other areas that Skip was talking about through Cherry and Ash and stuff off of Main. The reason we want to do this, originally we were going to wait later to do this section, but by doing all of these intakes, we can actually eliminate a CSO, and it'll help us on it'll help to address the flooding on Iowa Avenue, where we have an area that ponds up to about 14 inches deep, sometimes a little more. So that'll actually finish this area. It'll change how we operate the current Orchard Street pump station. The majority of the time that will go gravity because it's no longer a CSO. So we'll have some reduction in operating costs, and it'll also help in response and what we need to do during an actual heavy rain event for inland flooding and even during actual river type floods. Ted, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
First of all, it's nice to be employed for the last 18 years. Appreciate it. And appreciate the confidence you have in us and as a firm and also in me. One thing we're trying to do, and I've told you this, that before I retire, which seems to be further and further away, that we want to go back and renegotiate your consent decree with the DNR. We've had a series of meetings with EPA. Larry attended a conference call with KCMO, and their bill is $2.4 billion, and they're negotiating with EPA. So it's time to do that. And then the rest of it, as we see all of the opportunities for loans and grants and such, I want to help you work your way through that and decide what is the best way to approach it, what is the best way to go after it. And I still have some hopes that some of the things that you might be doing, like your airport, I still see that as a jewel. And there's some things that I'm going to try to bring to the table that you might want to consider. But first of all, thank you for it. And it's the part that's distressing is we've been having some lettings recently. This happened to be asphalt, and it was 40% over last year's bids. And so I think you're going to see that what we're trying to do is stick to the idea of $6 million a year, which we can finance. But we may find we're not going to get as much done unless we have some help for loans and grants. And so, but once again, thank you very much.
Council, do you have any questions for either Larry or for Ted? He knows our city pretty well, having been here a number of years.
Yeah. Larry, I did the math on that. That's almost another mile of separation.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. We're getting closer. Yeah.
Do you want to give any background on that, Larry? I mean, I think, again, for the general public, we sometimes take this for granted because you work with it every day. But, we are being monitored on our consent decree, and we are not allowed to have overflows as we used to. And this is something that we're going to have to do whether we want to or not. It's just how much can we do and how do we fund it?
Right. Back in 2007, we got notification from DNR that we were going to enter into a compliance schedule with them. Originally, they would like to see us do that in an 8-month period, in 8 months. That didn't happen. Finally, in September of 2011, we were able to negotiate. It was quite a lengthy process when you start negotiating with EPA's attorneys, DNR attorneys, and of course, we had our attorneys. So a lot of our meetings included 6 different attorneys at one time. So that was always an interesting process that seemed to go on forever. We were successful in entering into a compliance schedule. At that time, they had proposed a 15-year. We were able to get 25 years. But again, it took almost 5 years to get to that point. So we effectively had a 30-year window to do this separation. Some of our original projections were fairly close. As we get into this area, we're finding that our expenses far exceeded the original estimates that we put into our compliance in 2007. Some of the stuff that we have worked with and had worked on with the state is affordability. That's where Ted talks that we need to go back and start discussing things with the DNR, and at what point do we slow down? I mean, right now we're scheduled and we can continue about a $6 million a year program. Now, keep in mind that also does quite a bit of street surfacing, just depending on the size of your pipe, your depth, your location, number of pipes. There's a lot of things that we have to weigh. But back to the original point, we negotiated through that 5-year process. Instead of just 100% separation, we went through and we done a presumptive approach where we look at and calculate an 85% reduction in flow and an 85% reduction in load. At that point, it's assumed that we've done our part. There is another caveat in there where we was to have less than 6 actual events. That's fairly hard on the north side box. That is the one that'll be a trigger that'll probably continue to force us into separation, depending on negotiations and where we're at, especially after listening to the process that Kansas City used and how they were able to frame and actually get extensions. I believe they're at a 40-year schedule now. So they've been able to negotiate additional length as their expenses continue to go up. And that's probably something that we will start discussing. And again, it's a lengthy process with the regulatory people.
Okay.
The next one, we have some pretty good maps for the next actual item on the council that we could maybe expand upon that a little bit more.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the professional service agreement, been made and seconded. Are any other questions or comments on this part of it? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Resolution number 125, 2021, approving the professional services agreement between the City of Ottumwa and Beanstra and Kim Incorporated for professional services during the design and construction of CSO Phase 8 Division 2 Blake's Branch Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 125, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
This agreement will provide for a design of approximately 3,300 feet of sanitary sewer trunk pipe at the end of Blake's Branch Sewer Separation Phase 8 Division 1, which is, again, the intersection of Birch Street and 4th Street. That's been extended, and it's either going to be a separate project or included in the Division 1, depending on how some of this state funding and infrastructure money shakes out in the end. We submitted several of these projects for that type of funding, and we don't know yet where we stand.
Any questions for Larry?
Larry, this talks about from, where am I at here now? This is north.
If we zoom in, Edward, pan north a little bit. As you can see, this is the end of the Phase 1. That's kind of that lighter shading. So just above 4th, under what we are currently developing and designing under Division 1. And again, we had some additional funds that we were targeting, and depending on if we get some of our STAG grants that we've applied, which are appropriations through our legislative people, we will move to what's called Division 2 and pan up a little bit more. Other way. Yeah. The other way. So Division 3A, Division 2A, those are what's in this design contract. If you look, that takes us all the way up past Garrett Street, does the main line, gets us through Jefferson and on the other side. Then all of your side streets, the same thing. We have to look at the sanitary, look at the storm. Are we replacing storm? Are we just rehabbing sanitary? All of that will be considered along with all the roads. All that depends on where the sewer is located, what shape it's in. Is it a small enough line we can go between the curb or place, gutter and sidewalk? All that will be determined in this design over the next year as we locate.
Gotcha. Thank you.
The purple line is the actual backbone of the new sanitary. That's that 30-inch line that'll be picking up everything. Eventually, that goes all the way up past Penn and Jeff, and then the pressure main and all the lines that come from the north side of town. We actually intercept that. We pull it out of the north side box, and we'll pull all that sanitary over time out of that box. One of the things that's worth noting that we stated in some of the early presentations, we actually have designed this in phases going up, where when each section is completed, we're actually getting an environmental benefit. If we would have come in and just did the backbone, which was a consideration, you don't really get any benefit until you do your sidelines and you're complete. So this way, we can take credit for pounds reduced in the receiving stream. That's where we said we had to reduce load 85%. We will start counting that as these projects are completed. Same way with as we separate it, you still have to get the total flow out to get credit for your volume reduction.
And then remember that the reason it's called a combined sewer, parallel pretty much to that blue line is the existing storm sewer and sanitary.
Right.
And so we're taking the sanitary off of the storm sewer so that when they're all said and done, it'll only be storm sewer entering the river. And that line, believe it or not, goes all the way back to Elm Street Pump Station. And that's part of the overall plan.
Any questions for either Larry or Ted?
I've got a little bit more there.
Okay.
The estimated construction cost on this project we'll target about 10 million. Total compensation for design services shall not exceed 695,000. And then we've listed just this initial funding for each of the years. What we had in for the design, we expanded the size of our design package, I guess, the area that we're going to design under this phase.
Yeah, remember, 3 years ago when we set up the BDL and the SRF? Yeah, so we already have funding set aside. It's a loan for the planning and design loan. Then also funding for the construction is also set up as a loan.
But the way it looks, and with working with Phil and our finance director, we're going to fund this next phase also internally. We shifted additional lost funds into that, and we believe that everything can be, again, funded locally.
Yeah, the last thing that I would mention is that you can see all the side streets, and all of those are about the same age. The utilities are the same age, and so we've been working with Waterworks to try to find out what their needs are. But we need to decide how much paving we're going to bring back. We're trying to stay within the right of way so we don't have a lot of easements we have to acquire. But that's going to be the challenge, because then, without a doubt, we'll come back to mayor and council and kind of say, well, how come you haven't improved my street? And so we made some assumptions about what we're going to do, but that's kind of the goal of it. And we're going to try to focus on staying with that $6 million a year, which once again, because of the way the prices are rising, we may not get as much done as we'd hope, but we'll see what happens.
Any other comments, Larry?
Just if there's additional questions, there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, this project's been going on for 16 years now, so there's just a lot of background detail. It's hard to relay everything in just a 5-minute presentation.
Any questions, comments? Okay, so vote. Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to item J in our agenda. Thank you, Ted, for being here tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address any city business? Doesn't have to be on the agenda necessarily. Okay. Hearing none, I'll move on to communications. Just make a comment. I've had a couple of phone calls and emails about today is the last day of school in the Ottumwa school system, and we have a lot of children on our streets now and a lot of bicycles. And one individual had a close call this morning and just would like to alert the public to pay attention to children on bicycles. Her concern was that they are not following the rules of the road, stopping at stop signs, coming out of alleys, getting off of streets, and she's fearful that somebody's going to be struck by a car and could have a fatality. So just for the general public, be aware of children on bicycles and scooters as we move into summer months. Holly, were you going to make a comment about a upcoming event, please?
Oh, yeah. It was under the beer liquor applications for Downtown is Back, which is going to be June 17th through 19th. There'll be multiple events downtown, bike night, paint crawl, car cruising, vendors downtown, and Main Street yard sale. I think I'm probably missing something, but multiple events for that long weekend to kind of celebrate summer and getting back to normal.
Good. Okay. I also want to alert the public to the fact that we are going to have a ribbon cutting at the Ottumwa Industrial Airport on Saturday, June 26th at 11 a.m. We've invited a number of dignitaries to come and be with us. We're trying to do this in cooperation with the hot air balloon races this year, and so encourage the public to take advantage of both of those events. And then lastly, I'd like to give a date for the council to get on their calendars. The League of Iowa Cities is going to have an in-person conference this year after the COVID postponement last year. That will be September 15th through the 17th, and it will be held in Coralville. So I'm going to mark your calendar and get your registrations completed. Is there any other business for the good of the city? Staff, Bill? Okay. Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Thank you all, and good night.